I have to say that turning 26 is very disappointing because you're still young, but you're not young enough for people to care. It's like the beginning of old age in a sense. You know how old people always say that they have wonderful stories to tell about their youth, but nobody really wants to listen? Well, being 26 is like that, but you don't even have fun stories to tell. You just kind of feel like you're an asshole floating through space. And then you look at your previous 25 years of life, and you wonder, how the hell did I even make it this far? And why didn't I think exactly as I do today? And you get angry when you those icky memories, and icky memory being like, think of this time in high school that you were hanging out with a group of friends, and maybe everybody was on the same social wavelength except for you. You wanted to talk about like the latest Mario game that came out, while everybody else was obsessing about the world God only knows, like some arcane anime that everybody else knew about except for you, because you were off playing guitar or being autistically obsessed with something that nobody gives a shit about. And that's an ick moment, because you think everyone around you didn't like who you were being then, and that's probably true. And even though they've since long forgotten about it, you haven't, and that ick just kind of sits in your heart. You get upset thinking about those particular disappointing experiences in your life. On top of that, you look ahead of you and you're like, okay, well, I probably have about 50 years of active life left, assuming that I take decent care of myself, and maybe even less than that if I get diagnosed with cancer sometime in my 30s, 40s, or 50s, and I'm told, oh, you only have 6 months left to live, which honestly terrifies me. And it's a cliche to say that you should live in the moment, and I've made videos about living in the moment, and it's something that I have to remind myself all the time, because if I don't, then I'm stuck off in the past, yesterday, or thinking about how I'm going to be tomorrow. I know that we all do this, but the reason I make videos about it in the first place is not to remind just you, but to remind myself and to reinforce my own sanity by putting it out there in the internet somewhere, so I can reassure myself that at least some people heard what I had to say. And the other problem with humans in general is just, we never get to be other people. We're stuck with ourselves for our entire lives. And when you're very navel-gazing and you love to think about your life, just like me, and I imagine that you do, it only makes the inability to be or experience life through somebody else's eyes even more difficult. And then you actually make friends, and you have to manually think of how you're going to orient yourself in a specific conversation. Am I going to talk about my past and bitch about my future to this person? Am I going to listen to them and try to put myself in their shoes? Or, is it even really worth talking about all these sorts of things? And life has just taught me that nobody gives a shit about who you are, on top of the fact that your life is, beyond the few things that probably do matter, not that important. Like, I'm not saying that life is worth losing. It's just that there's a narcissism of youth that really begins to ebb away as you age, if you have enough self-awareness to understand that even people as famous as Elon Musk or Donald Trump or Taylor Swift, at the end of the day, people don't really care as much as maybe even that celebrity imagines that they do care. Like, someone who I care about a lot would be like John Lennon. I always bring up John Lennon. I think about John Lennon a good amount of the time, like, I don't know, once or twice a week. I reference his melodies and think about how great he was as an artist. But even then, as famous as John Lennon was, he's not as important as I am to myself, or as important as my family is to me. And then you realize that a lot of social interaction and this search for fame and the search to be recognized is, in large part, a bunch of deadwood that you need to burn off. And it's an incurable disease, because even when you recognize this, there's still the reptilian part of your brain that wants social status and to climb that ladder to be loved by everyone around you. It's depressing when you have enough self-awareness to realize that even with that self-awareness, you will never solve those problems. This is another reason that people meditate, because the only way to escape themselves in this hell of your own consciousness is to close your eyes and exist not just with yourself and not with the external world, but just to be one. There's this good Japanese philosopher who talked about the true meaning of oneness, of meditation, and that is when there's no longer a distinction between subject and object. And the problem I suffer is I'm always thinking about myself as a subject, and the outside world it's unable to be experienced properly. And I think the only way that a thinking, level-headed person is ever going to get there is by trying to blur the line between the external world and the internal and be completely one with everything. And forgive me for speaking in platitudes, everybody. This is just something that drives me absolutely insane, because really, if we cannot prove the existence of a divine being, if we can't prove that we are created, or if you don't believe that we are created and we are just living on this earth as we are, then the only way to prove to ourselves that anything matters at all is either some form of existentialism, where we come up with a meaning and we embrace that meaning we have created for ourselves, or we go the absurdist route and embrace nihilism for nihilism's sake. And that, to me, is just, it's not a satisfying answer. Maybe there isn't supposed to be a satisfying answer, but I think it's the most depressing one. All that to say that 26 has led me to this philosophical standpoint where it's not that I don't care anymore. I still care about everything that I used to. It's just I'm slowly recognizing that the efforts that you make in your life to become the person that you want to be are never going to be recognized in the way that you want them to be. And so you should I don't even know if you should do it for yourself. I'm starting to wonder if you should do this for your family and for the people around you, because I gain a lot more satisfaction and joy from community and helping the people around me than thinking about what I want and what I want for myself. If I only think about what I want for myself, and I'm going to continue to do this for the rest of my life, I'm going to be a very miserable human being. It's like those small little moments when when I do something nice for my girlfriend, or if I do something nice for my mom, or something nice for my dad. I buy them something, I write them a letter, or I do a gesture of kindness. I get a lot more pleasure and meaning out of a responsibility to make them happy than wallowing in my own sorrow or thinking about why I'm here or my own existence, because there's no answer. I think this is something that I still, even though it's coming out of my mouth right now as I'm speaking to you, the viewer, I have a hard time accepting this reality. And if you've been here to experience any of this, please subscribe. This is my second channel. If you don't subscribe and you just found it in the YouTube algorithm, fine, so be it. But thank you for being here, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Cheers.